are going to take a look at handstand, specifically the L-shaped handstand and an L shape with a bent knee. So there's a few steps of our handstand, one being the entrance, two being the shape itself and the balance, and the third part being our exit. Hopefully your exit is a controlled reverse of the entry that you took. Regardless, if it happens to not be, knowing your options for your exits when you're in your handstand is going to give you confidence, take away your fear, and also keep you safe. So knowing your exit is very important. Jumping into our shape and entry, we're actually going to work first with the shape and then we'll follow up with options on entry. So to start, we're going to start on our backs. So finding your way onto your mat, sending your heels towards the front of your mat, lifting up the shoulders, lift up the head, elongate yourself, maybe rebend the knees, press into the feet, lift the pelvis, tuck the tailbone down, slowly unwind the spine, and find a flat surface for the back of the sacrum. This shape here is going to help us maintain control throughout our core. Low ribs staying knitted together is going to help with that. So nice long spine. From here, we'll do the right leg first, keeping that flat surface of the sacrum on your mat, sending the right heel nice and long towards the wall, taking your left knee into the chest, and then sending your left heel directly up to the ceiling, creating your L shape, making sure we keep that small scoop of the tailbone reaching long towards the back wall, fiercely reaching out both heels keeps the legs nice and active. From there, arms reaching up overhead, wrap of the triceps, shoulders away from the ears, arms reaching long, wrists, the palm, full surface of the palm is going to push towards the back wall, fingers reaching down towards the earth, pushing the ground away. Hold for 5 breaths, draw in. Super active and engaged here. Notice my right heel is not touching the earth. Low belly still drawing towards the spine, ribs are still knitted together, sacrum nice and firmly planted. We're going to take a switch of the legs. So drawing the left heel down towards the sit bone, keep the arms nice and active, triceps wrapping, pushing the back wall, imaginary, away from you. Slowly taking the left foot down to the mat. Right knee is going to bend. Place the right foot down. Left heel reaches long. The heel never comes in contact with the earth. Reach that heel nice and long, kneecap lifting, leg engaged. Right thigh comes in towards the body, heel goes up towards the ceiling, and maintain here. 5 breaths. Slowly bending the right knee again, placing the foot flat on the mat, drawing the left leg in. You can release the arms, let the elbows bend out to the side. Taking a moment to rotate the wrists, flap the fingers open and close, clap, 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 clap. Rolling up to a seated position here, we're going to take our shape into a downward facing dog. So finding our downward facing dog, will pass through a child's pose, big toes glued together, knees can stay narrow, walking the hands towards the front of the mat, lengthen, forehead can come down to the mat, 2 breaths. Lifting the gaze first, taking the gaze just up between the thumbs, lightly gazing at the mat in the middle of the 2 thumbs there. Taking a moment, pointer finger pointing forward, wrap the tricep to the back of the mat. Lifting up off of the feet, tuck the toes under. Hover the knees first. Drop your ears between your upper arm bones. And then because of the handstand instance here, we're going to take the gaze back up between the thumbs. So keeping those hips reaching long away, wrap of the triceps, gaze looking up, head is nestled between the upper arm bones. Then coming into the legs, possibly walking out the feet here. Finding some small wiggles. So tailbone, a small tuck here, navel to the spine, ribs are still closed, nicely knitted together, gaze looking up between the thumbs. Stepping the left foot down, right heel is gonna flex, sending that heel long directly out of the hips. Keeping in mind the hips here, so this will change our balance. If we're in the air with a hip open, we're not going to have as much control over the body. So making sure you're very aware here to keep your hips closed, reaching fiercely out of the right heel, shoulders pushing the earth away, low ribs knitted together. Switching sides, right foot drops down, plant the foot, shift the weight onto the right foot, left heel lifts up and back. Same concept here, so that the hips open, it's going to be a little bit loosey-goosey to find our balance when we're up, because then the shoulders start to open. So when we're in our handstand, we want to have the shoulders both directly over top of the wrists, pushing the earth away, gaze looking up towards the thumbs, reaching long out of the left heel, nice long body. Slowly lowering the left heel back down, lifting up onto the toes, bend the knees. You can sit back on top of the feet or take a child's pose if you need to, allowing the shoulders to roll. You can shake out the wrists if that was a little bit intense for you. We're going to take this shape that we've been working on and finally start to bring it a little bit closer to our handstand shape. Although we were just inverted in our downward facing dog, we're going to take it over to the wall and use the wall here to help us find the shape in our inversion, but not necessarily be in the middle of the room where we might have some other things come up, such as fear or maybe lacking a little bit of balance in the shape. So we're going to take it over to the wall. Maybe bring your mat slightly closer. Lengthening your standing leg towards the wall. I'm going to use my door here. So lengthening both hips, tailbone slightly tucked, finding my shape first here. And this is where I'm going to try to work inverted. So taking our hands, placing them where our feet are. Step the blocks out of the way. Placing our hands where our feet are. I'm going to take my foot, placing it up the wall, first beginning with the toes. My other leg, my left leg in this instance here, is going to shoot up directly out of the hip in that L shape that we've been working on. So grip the mat, wrap the triceps, squeeze with the fingers. Press into the right foot that's on the wall. Slowly bend the left knee, sending it up directly out of the hip. So I'm pushing the earth away. My gaze is looking just between my thumbs, finding my shape here. Tailbone reaching long, small tuck, hollow body, navel to the spine, low ribs are engaged. If I'm comfortable here, maybe I bend my right knee slightly coming up onto my toes, letting a little bit of balance come in and see if I can float my foot away. So notice I'm not pushing off, letting my heel come back behind my hips, keeping that line nice and tall, gaze down to the earth, just moving my foot away from the wall. Slowly coming down. You can, of course, leave the foot on the wall and just bring the left foot around that way. Taking a moment to do the other side. So gripping your mat, wrap of the triceps, pushing the earth away, fingertips engaged, left foot is on the wall this time, pressing into the left toes, right heel lifts up and shoots directly out of the hip, gazing between the thumbs. Maybe you stay here, just working on your shape, seeing if you can find that nice long spine. Push the ground away. Use the muscles on either side of the spine to add length. Maybe you play with bending and finding that bent knee, L shape, slowly coming down. Maybe a small fold. Oof. Roll the wrist side to side. Maybe you slide one hand at a time underneath the foot. A little massage there. So if you have a block accessible to you, I would suggest grabbing it at this time. We're going to use the block to help us stay out of the realm of a banana back. So for the sake of understanding what a banana back is and what I'm talking about when we practice handstand, it's coming out of the hollow body hold. So letting your low back really sway, tailbone sticking out. Abdominals tend to not be engaged. Low ribs tend to flare out. So we want to keep the low back nice and long, drawing in through the belly, keeps the core active. The low ribs staying knitted together helps us find that nice long spine and control, really. So I'm going to give you a small trick using a block to help you achieve this shape. So taking our block, I'm going to take my block and place it into my hip crease. From there, I'm going to bend forward, keeping my low ribs knitted together, and sandwich my block in between my left thigh and my low ribs. From there, I'm going to bring my hands down to the earth, keeping a small bend in the left knee. My right heel is reaching fiercely long and out of my hip, keeping my hips square. Wrapping the triceps. I'm going to take one nice deep breath in. Exhaling here. As I inhale, keeping this leg straight, no sway for momentum, kicking up here. It's a hop. So long right leg, inhale. Exhale, bend my standing leg. Inhale, press off. Keeping that squeezed in there, reaching fiercely out of my right heel, pushing the earth away. Maybe I try straightening my left leg, keeping the block in place, rebending the knee. But what would happen if I came into my banana back is my block would fall away and I'm losing control and stability in my handstand. So we're going to try that again on the other side, taking the block, sandwiching it in between the low ribs and the right thigh this time. Placing the hands underneath the shoulders, wrap the triceps. Left heel is going to reach nice and long. Taking a nice exhale here. Keep that hip, the heel reaching directly out of the hip. Bend in the standing leg as you exhale. Explode, jump up, inhale. Oh, didn't catch my balance, but I'm still working on my shape there. So press the ground away, exhale. Inhale. Oh, I caught a little balance. Reaching, press the earth away, use the fingers. Flexing both feet, nice and active legs. Maybe I work on straightening my right leg. Maybe I bend it. But if I go into my banana back shape, my block is going to fall out. So taking a moment to really use our props to help us find that hollow body shape and help us find something that's sustainable with control. The next option here for our middle of the room handstand would be working on an entry from a little bit more of a downward facing dog as opposed to a short end stance like we were just in. I would suggest starting with your short end stance before going to your downward dog stance. It's a little bit more difficult to catch your balance at the top when you're jumping, having the feet and hands a little bit further separated. As far as cultivating the balance in your shape, do that at the wall. This is more working on the entry. So if you have your balance pretty steady at the wall and you want to work on the entry, you could, I'm going to move my mat back towards the middle here. You could come into your downward dog shape. Send the right heel up and back. Keep the hips nice and square like we talked about. Maybe take a small baby step forward. Hips nice and square, up high on the tippy toes. Bend the thigh towards the chest like our block was there. Nice and long spine stays that way. Gaze between the thumbs. Explode off the foot. Find your shape. If you don't catch your balance, you should come right back down. So landing, well, you could always go over if you're jumping a little bit more intensely. This is why knowing your exit is always important. So wrapping the triceps, long, reaching out of the right heel, bending the left leg, gaze between the thumbs. Exhale, inhale up. Maybe you catch your balance for a moment, coming right back down, landing softly, quietly, bending that left knee. Trying the other side, reach long, bend the standing leg, thighs towards the rib cage on the right side, hips nice and square, gaze up between the thumbs. Exhale here. Inhale. Active legs. Maybe you try bending the right leg. Maybe it's straightened, a little heavier when it's straight, so it might bring the weight of you back down. If you want to bend the knee, go ahead, but just keep in mind that long lower back, tuck of the tailbone, hollow body through the core. So there's one more option for our L-shaped handstand as far as an entry is concerned. So you have the option of, if you're working on playing with pressing up into handstand, there's a standing split entry that you could use to enter into this specific shape. So just taking a moment to take a quick look at what pressing might be and just give you one small tip if that's something you're working on. So coming into a little bit more of a standing split shape as opposed to our hands being extended in front of us, bringing the hands a little bit closer towards the toes, wrapping the triceps, find your nice long spine. Send the right heel up and back. Chin can round forward, find your standing split. Inhaling. Hug the thigh towards the chest, float off. Heel reaches up. Through the right leg, fierce the whole time. Slowly coming back down. Hug the thigh into the chest, hug the thigh into the chest. Slowly, the toes float down. So a small little tip you could try doing is elevating the height of your feet. So when it comes to pressing, getting the hips up and stacked over the shoulders is where pressing kind of happens. So if maybe the flexibility is not there or you're lacking a little bit of strength to get the legs up, you could try elevating the height of the standing leg, bringing the palms down to the earth, still reaching long out of your extended leg heel, shifting the weight into the hands, slowly floating up away from the block. So just a small tip, maybe you could give it a try. So that's where we're going to stop for this video, working with L-shaped handstand and L-shape with a bent knee. You have a couple things to work on there as far as this shape is concerned, as well as cultivating the balance in your shape, as well as entering with a couple different methods. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below in the comment section or contact me through Facebook. Happy handstanding.